The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here. Bear with me, we're navigating amongst shitty straight truck drivers. Driving shitty, which is what they do. So what else? What else is new? It's expected. It's accepted. Most certainly. Well, got my ass kicked yesterday with all that driving, boy. That was something, man. That sure was something. You know, we got FedEx making some bizarre turn here in front of me. We're in St. Paul, Minnesota, headed to La Crosse, Wisconsin, to pick up a load that's going to Massachusetts, I think. I believe that's to be the case. And just now was able to hit the road after a 15-minute pre-trip. Actually, it ended up being about 20. I made my egg drink, and that's how late I got in last night. I was able to sleep on the side of the road outside the receiver, and used a little over an hour of the personal conveyance to get all the way there. And I rechecked the route yesterday that they took me through Chicago, and I'll definitely, well, I don't expect I'll be taking that route again. Way too much city driving during rush hour. So we're actually going back that way, but we're actually, to get to the pickup, we're going part of that way and not taking around. And also, basically from here to Chicago, again, is what we're doing. I think is what I'm trying to say. But that's not the final destination. Wait a minute, that ain't it. A little bit of cold coffee here. Cold brew. We got about 3 hours and 30. I can't do that. Hang on. Let's double check the route, sir. That don't look right. Yeah, 2 hours and 38 minutes. It said 3 hours and 30 minutes. I said, what? Sometimes when you set waypoints on this, multiple waypoints on this GPS, it can't accurately tell the time to the first waypoint for some reason. So I've removed the other two that are not necessary. But yeah, feeling good. Man, it was comical watching me try to back in this morning to the dock, though. I was still fairly tired. And I don't really identify as being tired mentally. It takes a lot for me to. But when I can't even do fairly basic backing maneuvers in a timely fashion, then Thankfully, nobody tried to help. Nobody tried to help. No assistance, please. But yeah, definitely feeling the effects of either 2 or 3 nights in a row of, very nearly going to sleep at the time that I'm used to waking up at. I guess that was probably around 2 a.m. last night. Well, we're getting used to it. So bear with me. If you would, please. Trust that you're well. I'm doing better than yesterday. I had to pitch my little hissy fit early in the morning. Funny how that works, but I don't know. Ultimately, it's quite the precarious existence or subsistence. So take it week by week, I suppose. If I'm going to go pick up a load and drive over the weekend, and the goal will be to continue on in the job at least until next payday. Hopefully, hopefully, folks are down there behaving themselves in the chat, because I got the message yet again about moderation is good for people, or whatever that message is. So, which leads me to believe there's been shenanigans in the chat, but who knows. So whoever's typing down there, you're welcome to it, but I can't see it. I can kind of see the comments at times, but I cannot read the name of the person making them. It's too small. What's up, Venus? I see you. And Joe Moore. Shout out. But I guess what happened is, when I had this breakdown, and that delayed the 2 deliveries that were on the trailer, and then once those were made, whatever they had pre-planned for me obviously was out of the question. So in the mad scramble to find assignments for me, I ended up 2 days in a row with some, got to pick it up, drive straight through, and deliver pretty much on 1 clock, which is it can be fairly difficult to do. And that's where we ended up having the come to Jesus meeting with the owner of the company. But I'd say overall it was constructive. I think we understand each other a little better, and I mean that both ways, not just me being a Benton, right? So that's good. He's actually a pretty no bullshit kind of guy, except salesman-y. He's got that. I'm assuming he's the one that sells, gets the new accounts, and not in a phony way. Just it's a specific skill set, the salesman type of stuff. So I was selling myself to get the job, and he was doing his salesman thing to get me to take the job. So now that all the niceties are over, we can actually get down to working together. And Hopefully they don't expect me to pick up any freight en route, which I actually don't mind. Now, there may not be room on the trailer. I won't know until they load it, but I don't mind necessarily, but they have to tell me ahead of time what route they want me to take, because, you know, all this idea, well, that most of the other drivers do X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, I'm not ever going to be most of the other drivers. So, in fact, yesterday I made my life a lot harder on myself because I just took my GPS's word for it, and I don't mean like and drove into a lake or onto a footbridge or anything. I mean, it historically gives me such high quality routing that I fail to double check it, and probably added about an hour total to the whole journey, which is not crazy, but the main thing is it was much more tiring driving than necessary. A lot of stoplights, hours of stoplights, hours of rush hour in stoplights. You know, slowing down to nothing for no reason, but that's part of driving. I guess this is Minneapolis now. No, this is this is downtown St. Paul. Yeah, we did not quite make it to Minneapolis. $300,000, I think, is the posted 311,000 for St. Paul, I believe. And it's kind of like a Dallas-Fort Worth situation. They're, you know, although Fort Worth and Dallas are fairly far apart. I mean, you still got Minneapolis and St. Paul, or, you know, there is a between. They're not, you know, right next to each other as far as touching. And maybe they are, but I mean, I guess I mean more of the downtowns. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm blaming the sleep deprivation at this point. I feel pretty good overall, just a little cloudy. A little cloudy. And realistically, what else am I going to do? You know, whine and cry, and I don't really ever threaten the company with quitting. That's silly. But, just, I guess I'll talk to the live stream and talk about quitting. Well, and I remember, blah blah blah. It reminds me of my first year with Snyder. I seriously considered quitting like twice a day, and pretty much probably the first 6 months. Oh shit. Almost missed an exit. I think this is real similar to the one I missed last night, actually. It's a weird layout down here. It's a strange layout. Counterintuitive in certain ways. Kind of cool looking. It's got some old buildings. I don't know, is that a river? Whatever that is, body of water. Some barges, I guess it's a river. Is that the Mississippi is the question. The Mississippi comes down from Minneapolis area. Is that the Mississippi? Could be. Well, I did not get time to read the article yet, but something about Tesla's board of directors or whatever, or however they do that, has approved like up to $1 trillion in stock options for Elon Musk. And I guess this is the system's way of, you know, and I'm certain there's already trillionaires, but the system's way of, you know, they're going to have the first trillionaire first, official fiction trillionaire, I guess, presumably. And apparently it's very incentives based. So depending on certain incentives being met, almost like a sports contract, I guess. And there's our one fly flying around. Haven't seen him at all today until I started driving. Wrong with the person driving the little mobility short bus for the city. They're all over the road, got their signal on. And, most likely. I believe I'm going to get to order some stuff on Amazon since I'm driving all weekend. I found an Amazon locker near the probably wait until they're loading the trailer to do that. Need to get me some long johns. They're kind of expensive on Amazon, but Walmart, I'm pretty sure that's a heavily shoplifted item, so that can be difficult to find in stock because the computer doesn't know to reorder it. I waited a little too long. Pretty soon, it's liable to be cold. And I like this whole thing, especially, as a Southerner going up north. Reminds me of when I had that refused delivery. That was actually 2 drops. And the first successful drop, I went in the building and this one guy wearing shorts, and it wasn't cold though. That's the thing, it's not cold. He's like, "Are you cold?" And I guess because I was wearing a hoodie, but it's like, no, man, I'm not cold. But, and then it's also, why would I be? I'm wearing a hoodie. How could I be cold? Like what? What? Like what's that whole thing? I would argue that shorts are probably inappropriate, but number one, in the workplace. Number two, a man of a certain age in shorts. So now we get into tanning. Well, I mean, what's going on? Why am I shouldn't even be thinking about this, right? And then, yeah, I understand cold climates, right? People went through a real cold every day that's not cold. Yeah, I get it. But in fact, I need to order one of my windbreaker, jacket with the kangaroo pocket. I usually wear that almost like a uniform, except in the summer when it's too hot. I need to order a new one of those. Some bad driving on display out here, I can tell you that. I'm profiling them and thinking maybe they're hoping they can manufacture an accident with a big rig and call the injury lawyer. I forgot to do something on my logs. I just realized my DVIR. I'll probably forget. There's my fly. He's back. 23 people. What the hell is this? Goodness gracious. Must be because I'm on video. Still debating on if I want to get a good. Some of them left. All right. Yes. Down to 20. Still debating on if I want to get another complete phone service with a different number, or motherfucker. SIM card and then use US Mobile for not that much more money a month. Or I pay by the year, but think it comes out to the equivalent of my phone is smart enough to switch back and forth. I think it has to completely go to, the exclamation point and the no signal for that to switch automatically. Or I could get another one of these cheap phones and buy a separate year of service on AT&T through US Mobile and just use that for the live streaming mainly. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't quite decided yet. Because if I'm working, I might as well buy things. Look, yeah, now we're down to 14. That makes a little more sense. What happened to get us up to 23? It's been so long since that many people listened. Although I went live last night, just try to stay awake. It was mostly zeros. It was just a bunch of nonsense. Nonsense. Just trying to get there. It was a struggle, but we made it. 138 miles to this pickup, and then I think maybe another 350-ish, 325 to where I'm planning on shutting down for the night. At a truck stop. Shit. It's been a minute since I made it to a proper truck stop under proper conditions. I don't count showing up at 1 a.m. and park and just, fortunately there was an out of order fuel pump I was able to park in front of or on the other side of. That don't count. That doesn't count in my world. Oh, and I've received word that California has dispersed EBT SNAP food stamps. I don't know if that's the entire state or if that's just LA County, now that I think about it. But at least LA County has, but I assume it's all of California, or at least for certain people. I don't have all the deets at this time. And I think your more red states are probably going to take the opportunity to get rid of it as much as they can. Although it is a bizarre thing when it's federal money and hypothetically it's job creation for the state because the state, employs state workers to administer the benefits. But who knows? And I do find it interesting, these programs for people like SNAP or Section 8, and how many people just don't really want to think about it or talk about it, except maybe to say, well, these people could get a job. And, I'd say this, I would not wish a job on my worst enemy, number one. Number two, because corporate slavery fucking sucks. Number two, like, realistically, the government clearly doesn't give a flying fuck what the people want. I mean, it's sort of like, why be mad at your neighbors or one's neighbors, but not mad at the government? I can understand somebody saying, hey man, I don't like that the government gives all these people these benefits. To me, that makes a lot more sense than, hey, I don't like that my neighbor signed themselves up for EBT and So the same system that tells them that to get jobs, they have to pay taxes. That's the same system that says that they might get food stamps or Section 8. Like, what's the fucking difference? It's the person is allowing the system to dictate to them how much taxes to pay under what circumstances, and also allowing the system to dictate to them, well, here's the benefits that the system, also presumably for the benefit of the system and the people. I mean, I'm not saying that's how it operates. I'm saying that's at least, the intent behind it is to serve a purpose. Same with like subsidies for farmers, or, corporate welfare, so-called, all of the various programs. It all starts presumably with at least something that sounds good on paper, right? And then, surprise, surprise, just like anything having to do with corporate bureaucracy, it grows and grows and grows and grows over time. And then, next thing you know, certain factions of the government is importing tens of millions of people from Latin America and wherever else, and giving them a bunch of benefits. And you'll never hear old Benton say, well, yeah, if the government wants to cut off people's benefits, I mean, okay. I mean, I'm not involved in that. My thing has always been, could we please start with the corporate fat cats and the free money for nothing to banks and bankers and, all of these. Now, apparently, there's all sorts of write-offs under specialized equipment. You can literally write off the cost of a private jet as long as it's bought brand new. Year one, it's 100% tax write-off. It's like, all right, I mean, where's the discussion around that? And where was the discussion around food stamps? I don't remember the people ever like debating it or saying, well, is this appropriate? My understanding is it became a thing, and then nobody really cared or paid attention until, lately it's become a thing. It's like, yeah, why wasn't it a thing 5 years ago? Why was it not a thing 10 years ago? And when did all of these people who probably could figure out how to feed themselves, why were they able to sign up for it? Number one. And see, I already know the mind of most people, the Democrats. It's like, well, wait a minute. That's a political party, but the people allow the so-called Democrats to do a thing. So how can the people blame Democrats for something that the people allowed Democrats to do? Like, it just doesn't even, logically, it just doesn't hold up. It's like, who or what is blamed for the banker bailouts? The people tolerated it. That's who to blame. So who's to blame for, and almost everybody agrees that, yes, certain people, sure, give them a card and let them go buy food. And then some of those people will say, yeah, but they shouldn't be able to get junk food or lobster or steaks or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I understand that, but all of these are industries, like, the fucking lobster lobby, right? The fucking beef, it's what's for dinner lobby. They sued Oprah. We've forgotten that they sued the fuck out of Oprah? In fact, I think that's how she met Dr. Phil, now that I think about it. I think that's how they became acquainted, was because he had some involvement in that lawsuit, I believe. Because she had made some, what they viewed as inflammatory and derogatory comments about red meat. Probably, she's been through cycles of weight loss and probably got all fired up about, cleansing or whatever. And was talking shit on them, and they got sued. She got sued. I mean, so clearly you can't, Mars Incorporated, or, whoever owns all these corporations, They're not going to just stand by on the sidelines and watch the fucking government pass out electronic benefits transfer cards, and then these corporations sell their products in grocery stores. They're not just going to watch all of this happen and say, oh yeah, it makes total sense that these cards won't buy Snicker bars and Coca-Cola and, you know, whatever else. That's not how America operates. It's completely nonsensical, right? The corporation's going to view that as unfair. They're going to say, well, wait a minute, the government is dispensing all this money. Why can't we get a piece of it? And they're not wrong. I mean, in the context of, again, how the system of business and transactions operates, that's actually valid. It's like, because they know they can go to court and argue that a Snicker bar has nutritional value. And in the context of a standard American diet, it does. I mean, if people are eating fast food and drinking sodas anyway, like, I don't know how much nutrition's in a bag of Doritos, but somebody somewhere will try to make the case that it has at least some nutritional value. You know, TV fucking dinners and all this. It's all a big scam. I mean, cut it all off. The reality is that the government itself considers all of that to be economic stimulus, and now you have a bunch of people who think they're Republicans, and they've forgotten that there was a George W. Bush, and Bush, out of his own mouth, said that, you know, a lot of this stuff, unemployment is economic stimulus, you know, EBT is economic stimulus. And again, don't take my word for it. Go research it for yourself. And you can't really just Google it, because Google just straight up lies. You got to actually try to find the quote somewhere. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that that's how the system views it. This is all economic stimulus. And I'm pretty sure Walmart would go out of fucking business. I think it probably depends on EBT SNAP portion. You know, how much of that 100 billion? I bet they get 30 billion of it. And when you add in how many of their large workforce is on EBT and probably couldn't work there, I mean, like, for real, because you know, they need a certain number of calories to even be able to stand on their own 2 feet, you know, and maybe not shoplift from their employer. And I finally figured this out. If you're ever in a Walmart and you just see something on the shelf and it's like a half-eaten candy bar and a half a soda, and you're like, who the hell's walking around here just drinking soda pop and eating half a Snicker bar and leaving it on the shelf? That's the workers doing that. That is not the customers. The customers will put that shit in their pocket, sure, but they're not wandering around the store eating. That's the workers doing that. Shout out to Millennials team. I think he's mentioned that before. And everything I'm describing here is a reconciliation. You know, it's to reconcile all of these various ideas. Instead of just in a vacuum going, oh my God, Democrats gave everybody food stamps. It's like, well, yeah, kind of, except for the part where the people just watched it happen and said basically nothing. You know, oh, well, look, the Democrats gave EBT to a bunch of illegals. It's like, yeah, y'all let them into the country, folks. You let it happen. And again, not you, the listener, my apologies. The American people allowed it to happen. And it's like, now we're mad. Now the American people are angry with half of the political system, who all pretty much works for the same people. And Republicans and Democrats have never done one thing directly in service of the masses of people in this country. I mean, nothing whatsoever. I would argue that SNAP benefits corporations way more than it benefits individual people. And probably does hurt them in a way. It's like, yeah, some of them would get off their ass and figure out what to do with their life without welfare. I mean, that when a conservative leaning person says that, they're not wrong. It's like, yeah, of course. Of course people are hobbled when they can get on a SSI, food stamps. And a lot of this is people kind of work together. It's like you got some people in the household who are on SSI, but they don't really get much food stamps. But then other people aren't on SSI, but they got a couple of kids, and maybe a couple of the kids get SSI, and then the mom gets fucking $1,200 a month or whatever. They all just kind of work together. Yeah, of course it would be better for them, for the individuals, to do something with their lives. Oh, wait a minute. Well, in the context of vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, right? Animated death, death warmed over, the slow process of death anyway. And people, might hear, who cares what it sounds like? You can be conservative as you think is possible, but why would a person just say, well, we're conservative, so now we can shut our brains off and not have to think our way through these problems? It's like, is it a thought crime to entertain thought forms that sound liberal? Like, how is that a thought crime? I've already said several extremely conservative sounding things, but that just gets lost in the shuffle because it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course. But then, oh, well, now he's sounding like a liberal. It's like, but did you forget about the part where I just said a bunch of things that sound conservative? Like, what do you mean? Can we put the pieces of the puzzle together? Or is it just we don't even notice when he says things that sound conservative, but then it's just try to excise or cut out anything that sounds liberal? And again, it's a negative political motivation. It's like, oh, destroy the Democrats, defeat the Democrats. If not for the pesky Democrats, it's like, well, wait a minute. Doesn't anybody remember Bush Cheney, for fuck's sakes, and the disaster that was? Meanwhile, Obama's presidency and Bill Clinton's presidency were about 100 times better than Bush Cheney. I mean, let's just call it what it was. Bush Cheney was a fucking embarrassment. It absolutely was. Now, I'm not saying, oh, but now you're saying Obama and Clinton were great. No, I'm saying compared to the debacle of Bush Cheney, that by comparison, Obama and Clinton, it went great. By comparison. See how it works? Meanwhile, it's all official fiction. None of it's going to amount to a hill of beans. The president, doesn't really do anything whatsoever. Again, waking dreams surrealistic unreality. Is this real, man? Well, no, not completely, certainly. And is Benton able to even discuss the government without improper identification? He's like, yeah, I couldn't even talk about this stuff a year ago without getting fucking pissed off at mostly how stupid the American people are. Now, I do feel a little bit of resentment boiling up on that account. So let me breathe my way through this. And really, it's just making sure that I don't become improperly identified within myself. And what I mean by proper identification is aligned internally based on true knowledge of self that I have having unlocked the achievement within the world of death and the game of lies of true knowledge of self, which is to uncover the perfected path that lies within, but not in a fake it till you make it, or not, oh, we read some fucking Eastern mystical writings up to it, including the Bible, by the way, which is certainly an Eastern mystical writing, if people aren't aware of that. Or Eastern scriptural writings with mystical elements, arguably, I would say. And, when will the individuals that comprise the mass realize that their major motivation is to sign on to an ideology so they don't have to think. It's like, okay, can we figure it out at the level of ideology, meaning Democrats bad, Republicans good. Okay, I'm glad we got that solved. Now can we move on to the rest of, TikTok videos, YouTube, our grandbabies' Little League games, or, whatever that is, whatever people are into. It's like, yeah, no, not and have a proper society. Meanwhile, that's a false premise anyway. There has been and never will be a proper society because humans aren't capable of it. And in fact, after being sacrificed to Moloch out of the gate, and the realm itself doesn't know what love is, and does want you to show it on some level, meaning to also not understand what love is, but to perform based on a lack of love. And this realm it's the lack of love. It's the lack of creation. It's the lack of abundance. That's what this place is. But passing itself off as justice, love, tolerance, treating people well, caring for the citizens. It's all a bunch of nonsense. It can't happen. But then when Americans just say, oh, well, it's the Democrats' fault, I don't know, do something about it. And this is not a call to action. I'm just saying, okay, if that's really true, I mean, it's pretty clear, there's ways to, if that was the actual issue, there's ways to resolve that. And the fact that, it's provably not the actual issue. That's an opinion. It's provably not the actual issue to blame Democrats. And why am I so hard on Republicans? It's because people like Robert Escobar of the Robert Escobar Show, he doesn't waste his time criticizing Republicans. That's pointless. He's a Californian, a left-leaning Californian. He utilizes his time criticizing the people who he thinks could pull their heads out of their asses and do a decent job. Meanwhile, at Californian, the Republicans aren't in office anyway. Why would he waste his time criticizing Republicans? It doesn't even make sense. So in a way, why would I bother to criticize? Of course my attacks are going to be lobbied at Republicans. I'm from that world. I'm from a culture that thinks it's Republican, which is bizarre considering that I'm from the Mississippi River Delta and the entire Deep South had nothing but Democrat governors from the late 1800s up until about 1968. I think it was Mississippi that made it to like 1990, from like 1874 to 1990, nothing but Democrat governors. But now it's somehow conservative. I just don't understand it. And yeah, were they always socially conservative? Sure, so was the fucking whole country. Except for maybe, your more artistic leaning areas, bohemian, and, go to 1950s San Francisco and tell me that it's liberal, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Less fascistic, perhaps, than other places, but you rarely will hear me utilize the term fascistic, but maybe just not as oppressive, but it was still quite conservative. Because as we know, conservatism allows progressivism to set the tone, and conservatism always moves along in lockstep with leftism or liberalism or progressivism. It gets towed along so that what was conservative, what's considered conservative now was just standard operating procedure in San Francisco in 1955, more or less. And the hippie thing wasn't a thing yet. That was another 15 years away, damn near. And then look at it, as soon as the system says, well, we're going to have the Beat Generation and Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, and, Neil Cassidy and all of this, whatever that psyop is. And then once the CIA and all of these other government entities are done with the hippies, just use speed and other illicit drugs to put an end to that, and that transitions and gives way to the war on drugs, where the president's wife goes on TV and says just say no, and her husband, the president, was literally dealing drugs. People can be in denial about all that they want. It's like, yeah, your Republican president dealt drugs. And if you think he wouldn't have been indictable under RICO, you're fooling yourself. Of course he would have been. I don't know that RICO was a thing yet. It's like, yeah, he can't just claim ignorance of what the organization he's in charge of is doing. Like that, it doesn't work that way. Just like if Joe Paterno at Penn State hadn't died, he absolutely could have been federally indicted for human trafficking because of what Sandusky was doing. 100%. Go read the fucking statutes. You'll see for yourself. That's the laws as written. Now, I'm not saying they would have indicted him. I'm saying he would have been indictable. And then the American people will say, well, what do you mean he wasn't involved? Well, all the government has to do is prove that he knew about it and didn't do anything other than meet the bare minimum of whatever the state law of Pennsylvania required, apparently. That has nothing to do with the federal human trafficking statutes, I assure you. The feds don't give a fuck about the state laws of Pennsylvania, except where they have to care, right? And let's not forget, Sandusky went to prison, and I think 3 of the administrators, I don't know that they went to prison necessarily, but they got convicted. There was, I want to say 3 different administrators got convicted of felonies because of that. Federally indicted and convicted. And that Spanier guy, it's the only name I really remember. I think he was like president of the university system or whatever. And something like that. You got like a chancellor or something. Like basically the 3 head guys of the whole system went to, I don't know if they went to prison, but they got convicted. It is possible to fuck up bad enough in America to actually get convicted of something. It's hard to do, but it's possible. And then, Americans want to make fun of the French. Oh, they surrender. Well, they general strike. I mean, I would say surrendering is to never have a general strike. So such as, I don't know, the government is allowing tens of millions of people to come here from other countries. I don't know. That might be a time to take a week off work simultaneously, right? Oh, but Benton sounds like a lefty or a liberal. I don't know. I'm on record the whole way through saying that if the government decides to not allow people to enter the country, that's not my business. I'm from here. I don't think it's a good idea or a bad. As an American citizen, if the government says you can't come here from other countries and we're going to enforce the borders, okay. Fine. Again, I'm from here. I'm already here. I'm from here. Why do I care? Well, the same thing is I clearly don't care on some level that 30 million brown people came here. I really don't. Because if I was one of those 30 million brown people in America, if the government said and the corporation said, hey, come on in, and, there was no job for me in Guatemala and the fucking, the gangs were running roughshod across the country and, lawlessness and murder everywhere, I would probably go to America too. So if I can put myself in their shoes and then now they're here, it's like, okay, well, they're here. Deal with it. Right? And then it's like, well, the government signed them all up for SSI and EBT and all of this and gave half of them CDLs. And it's like, well, yeah. And one general strike probably would have put an end to the whole thing. Bozos. Stay the fuck home from work for 1 week and see what happens. Oh, but you won't do that. And I don't mean you, the listener. Americans won't do that, but the French will. But somehow they surrendered. Okay, sure. Or maybe they force their government to surrender in certain ways. Oh, you think you're going to cut our pensions? Okay, well, work. Them apples. How you like them croissants? Is that French? How you like them baguettes? Is that French? See, I don't know shit about France. I know they win the World Cup every once in a while, and contrary to popular belief, they're a little more aggressive than you might otherwise think. A Frenchman will punch you in the motherfucking face, and I don't know that from experience, but they definitely give off those vibes. But yeah, they're definitely woke ass feminists. But again, Americans are by now, so what's the fucking difference? Your average Gen Z is, especially the millennials, are feminists. I mean, what do you expect? What do you expect, people? Keep grabbing the wrong drink. And you know, I don't even really care at this point, but it's like, why do I understand all of this? And most folks don't. It's sad. I mean, to me, it makes more sense to just shut the fuck up and just whoever gets the food stamps gets the food stamps. Or study it and research it and actually understand halfway how the system works. And maybe, I don't know, organize and figure out how to stand up to the government. Because the government doesn't do anything that power and money doesn't force it to do. If power or money or both doesn't force the government's hand, it doesn't do anything. So, I don't know, figure out what power and what money forced the government to allow a bunch of people to come here. Figure out what power and money forced the government to hand out a bunch of EBT and SNAP benefits. And then say, well, if you want to buy a fucking Chef Boyardee and, fucking shrimp or lobster, or if you want to buy a fucking 8-pack of honey buns, you know, whatever you want to buy at the grocery store, swipe your card and go for it. All right. Well, what power and what money facilitates that? Because do we think just in a vacuum, the fucking system just decides one day, oh, we're going to do these things? No, it does what it's made to do. That's how systems work. They do what they're made to do. And in this system, it's power and money that determines all of that. Which brings us to the first mention of Christ, right? Which is, that's power over the power. So if you look at, when I talk about the government doesn't do anything that power and or money doesn't force it to do, well, Christ represents power over that power, right? That's the power within, or the potential power within. So if enough of these individuals out here were able to facilitate the resurrection of the risen Christ within them, and I don't mean a human, I don't mean like a depiction of Jesus of Nazareth. I'm talking about whatever Christ was fully aligned with, you know, his own nature from day one, probably. And so this idea of being born again in spirit, you know, baptism in the Holy Spirit, that's what that is. Direct experience of Christ consciousness to facilitate over time and to attain victory over the dead flesh, one's own dead flesh, in the context of, again, a realm of delusion and illusion, right? Where through assertion, aggression, and dominant means, the being is falsely and invertedly taught to seek meaning and beingness externally away from their own source of power within themselves, to actually dissipate their own powerful energies externally, where they can't ever have almost no effect whatsoever, and where there's no possibility of accessing meaning. But this thing is so strong, the delusion is so strong, and things are so inverted that it's more or less a foregone conclusion for most individuals that, yes, of course, there's meaning to be found in this world. And I'm like, okay, based on what? That's an assumption. That seems to be what's happening and what has happened, every day of this slow process of death that we call life, which is a breakfast cereal. Mikey likes it. Sure, but again, question everything except for the part where it's assumed that, of course, there has to be external meaning, because to even entertain the possibility otherwise is to say, well, okay, then the being must be a nihilist. And is that bad? Meanwhile, if nihilist is an external meaning, and if I'm being accused of what? So now I'm being accused of internalizing nihilism? Well, that's a violation, because what I am in the context of vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, which involves concepts of time, space, location, place, if I internalize a notion of, well, Benton is a nihilist, well, now we have a location in the context of delusion, which is inside of myself. Well, how can that be? If what I am, the kingdom of air quote so-called God is within me, and air quote so-called God is love, and the kingdom of that force is within me. And so now you're going to tell me that involves a lack of meaning? Well, there you go. That's antithesis, inverting and attacking and accusing the supreme authority, the source of all life, substance, creation, and meaning, of actually representing the lack of all those traits. No, that's you, antithesis. That's you, antithesis, and that's the crux of the inversion. Don't you see how it works? And I think a lot of you probably are beginning to see it. But again, there's no fake it till you make it. The being will either serendipitously uncover that perfected path that lies within, or they won't. I'm not in charge. Benton ain't in charge of that department. It happened for Benton, and it very well may not have happened for Benton, right? I know old Benton was right on the precipice of it, didn't know he was on the precipice of it, and came under maximum spiritual attack, and those weapons formed almost did prosper, until the spirit quickened and vibrated ever faster and dodged the attacks. And wasn't too many more months before there was the unlocking of the achievement of true knowledge of self. And it seems to me like any being that is possessed or apprised, is that the right word? Or apprehended of or by the Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, has the potential to fully uncover and identify within themselves based on what they would then know themselves to be. And I don't mean believe themselves to be. I know what I am. And by knowing what I am, I know what I am not. And furthermore, by knowing what I am, I know what this realm is, because this realm makes an enemy of what I am. So what you going to tell me? Not much. Tell me where to go pick this load up. Right? You tell me where to go pick this load up. Fucking load of malarkey. And I would imagine what you just heard is that's just about the best description you're going to hear in the common parlance, within the common parlance, right, of, cosmologically what in the fuck is actually going on here. In broad strokes terms, right? And until somebody else breaks it down the way I just did, I'm on some level going to drop the mic and, fuck right off. Because I've got it figured out, folks. It's, what do you mean you've got it figured out? And here come the spiritual attacks. Well, why does your life look like this? What do you mean? This ain't my life. What are you talking about? This place, and Benton the performer, in the context of the performance in relation to this world of death and game of lies, that can't ever be said to be the being himself. So you can start asking these questions. Well, how come your life looks this way? How come when you talk It sounds this type of way. Who cares? This is a slow process of death within a world of death and a game of lies, vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. Who gives a fuck what it looks like and sounds like? What's the relevance of that? Who cares? I'm talking about actual power over the power. Power over the power. Because this realm can't, it can't wield power. This realm cannot access power except through the subversion of the creative force, right, of what I am. And again, not bitten the personality or their performer, not that, the core spiritual essence, the core vibrating frequencies of an indivisible force. And delusion, this realm is created via the subversion of the indivisible force, never-ending creative expansion that that had no beginning and will never have an end, and will never know death, can never know defeat, right? And this experience as Benton is the idea that it's even possible in the first place to break off a little chunk of that force, individuate it, and have it, and now it's animated death warmed over within the dead flesh. It's performing, hello my baby, hello my darling, hello my ragtime gal. And Benton's scatting and bebopping and moonwalking all over the place, right? And most individuals cannot draw distinctions. And I could sort of in the past, but not all the way, until the unlocking of the achievement of true knowledge of self, at which point the distinctions more or less draw themselves. And meanwhile, I can't teach anybody how to do that. I firmly believe in the transcendent potential of an individual. That people, it seems to me, if they took it seriously enough and it was important to them, they probably could figure out how to do it. It's not possible to follow anybody else's man-made system. In my experience, it's for the individual to make their own system for themselves, on behalf of themselves. So when I talk about having all the answers, yeah, inside of me, on behalf of me, for my purposes. Of course I do. And it's right there in the Bible. John 14:26, the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, will teach me all things and bring unto my remembrance. And that has happened and continues to happen. Yippee skippy yay for Benton. In some ways it does seemingly make things worse in a way. It's like, okay, what now? And well, I guess you drive a truck, buddy, and expect and accept the spiritual attacks that come day by day. Some of which is, no longer able to work one's own preferred schedule for the most part. Whatever, man. We'll adapt and overcome. It's whatever. It's like, there's no traffic out here, and I'm dealing with a never-ending series of cars that are driving in a very annoying fashion. So what? I accept it and I expect it, right? Because in some ways, most of these cars are basing the speed at which they're traveling. They're basing that on the speed I'm driving, and they're forcing me to constantly change my speed because I can't just go. If I could just go 75 in speed, I could probably get away from them. I can't. It's a 65 zone. I can't physically get away from these people. And they're changing and tailoring their speed in relation to my speed. But why? Because they're NPC normies, and normies rush in to normalize everything that is not incongruous. If something is incongruous, they cannot normalize it. because from their perspective, that's a violation of whatever it is that they subscribe to. And that is the function of the NPC normie. That's part of the function. The other part is, like in the video game, to just kind of hang out and repeat a bunch of patterns and wait to be interacted with. Because in the video game, and especially the old school style of video games, the NPCs just kind of wander around town in a pattern. You know, in one of the sequels to Legend of Zelda or whatever, they just walk around in a pattern and wait for a Link to come talk to them and interact with them. That's what they do. Other than that, they normalize everything that's not incongruous or that is congruent with whatever worldview they've been programmed with, which also changes and is updated, right? That's probably something akin to the idea of a download, receiving a download. You know, look at how quickly they normalized the pandemic. The normies normalized the pandemic in less than a week. It was completely normalized. It's like, oh yeah, normies normalized mask wearing like almost day one. And I remember going into my trucking company with a bandana on my face and a driver looking at me like I was insane. But the CDC or whoever had just declared, I guess the World Health Organization had just declared COVID or coronavirus, whatever they were calling it at the time, a global pandemic. And I just basically said, well, they're going to start making everybody cover their faces, is what I told him. And I said, in my mind, I know I'm playing a trick on myself, but for me, it's less invasive if I just choose to do it. If I trick myself into thinking I'm choosing to do it, it's like I'm playing a trick on myself. Meanwhile, that was incongruous to that NPC normie on that day. Meanwhile, I never saw that driver again, but I promise you a week later, it was completely normal for him to wear a mask and for everybody else to wear a mask 1 week later. I promise you it was. But on day one, morning of declaring it a global pandemic, Benton, who followed the news quite ardently, is like, yeah, man, didn't you hear? There's a global pandemic and they're going to make you wear a mask. And he's looking at me like I'm insane because that's not congruent. Because what had been normalized up until that point was you don't wear a mask. You don't cover your face in public. That was what was normalized. And then within like a week, now you do cover your face in public. And I remember as a homeless person, and I've said before, nobody's homeless for damn near 10 years for just no fucking reason. You know, clearly I was struggling and going through something. And I do remember when the social interaction would become a little too much. I remember I used to tie my bandana around my face. People fucking hated it that I could just sit there in public with most of my face covered. It drove them fucking crazy. They hated it because it was incongruous and it wasn't normal. This is when driving is so annoying. How nice the way they're driving, but it's actually extremely inconsiderate and shitty, but whatever. It is what it is. And it ain't what it ain't, some would say anyway. Let's see if I can get the lid off of this. Lucas with the lid off style. Anybody remembers that song? Yeah, it's just not, the lid's not going to work for whatever reason. Maybe there's too much liquid in here. Motherfucker, dude. One thing about truck driving is just It's impossible to stay clean. Not that I'm clean necessarily. Why don't I have paper towels within reach? We're going to spill shit everywhere. This is crazy. What is wrong with you, sir? These nice, almost brand new truck. I have to clean these seats. Maybe the little work will work now. Maybe we'll see. Maybe if I elevate the straw portion. That did it. We did not have enough airflow. Still don't. Physics, sir. It's physics. And I hope at some point people will figure out, Benton really ain't that smart. He thinks a lot. Yes. Lots of reps of thinking. I get a lot of reps in over a long ass period of time with the deep thought. Yep. Not that sharp overall. It's just, so what? Don't need to be. It's kind of better in a way that I'm not. Or that Benton's not. Excuse me, pardon me. Man, one thing I would like to have that would have helped me the last couple of days is cordyceps. So a good high quality cordyceps extract, cordyceps mushrooms for endurance. Probably need to go ahead and get. I was on that last time when I worked for a Sun Transportation System. That definitely, it's not a panacea, but it definitely helped with the old stamina. I went with the lion's mane instead for the discoursing. Yeah, buddy. And you know what's crazy? I like my job overall. I mean, I like long haul trucking overall. And I do think that this guy, the owner of the company, I think he really believes me, and it's true. That's what I told him. I said, "Yeah, I understand my work history is what it is, but I said the reality is I like to work. I like driving a truck. I actually enjoy it. It's like, so if I like the job, why would I quit? Or maybe I'll work 6 months and fuck off for 3 months, and maybe I'll bring my happy ass right back. You know." Why wouldn't I? Mayo Clinic, exit 4 miles. All right. I'm trying to think of what I need though if I'm gonna place an Amazon order today. Definitely wool socks and long johns, thermal underwear. There's some really good uh, supplement for. I'm getting a call. Hang on. Cool. Anyway, it's anti-constipation supplement. It's quite expensive because it's quite effective. All herbal type thing. So maybe I'll get that. We'll see. The prunes have been quite effective, but it's hard to get my hands on them because the ones they sell at most stores have the potassium sorbate, which actually completely defeats the medicinal effects of the prunes. It removes the beneficial aspect of the prunes, which is kind of hilarious. So now we're just eating prunes, I guess, for the taste of them. It's like, well, what's the point of that? Trying to get the effects, man. And I got the word to go straight to the pickup, which I was going to do anyway, but they need to tell me that because now they're saying I'm going to go pick up another load, and then that's going to go to Illinois. And it doesn't matter to me. I don't give a fuck. I don't really care. But this idea that I'm just going to know to do things. So they're finally figuring out it's not micromanagement if they call me and say, hey, we have a reason why we need you to go straight to this pickup, which I was going to do anyway. But what if I was thinking about going to Walmart? It's like, yeah, okay, now I wouldn't have anyway, but that is what communication is. So good on them. And I don't know what these other drivers do if they bitch and complain. Okay, I'll go to another place and pick up more freight. I mean, what do I care? What's the fucking difference? Especially now that I'm getting paid on a day rate. Okay, whatever, man. Makes no difference to me. Man, these people are fucking up. This is some bad driving. It's like, yo, there's the 3 lanes. There's a hammer lane. Like, nope, you got like one person who's actually, 1 or 2 people will actually use the hammer lane. It's like, yo, you can pass and not get a ticket, probably, but people associate the hammer lane with getting tickets. So most people are unwilling to use it. Oh my God, we're going to get a ticket. Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Now, this might affect whether I'm able to get to the truck stop that I wanted to park. If it does, we'll go to plan B. And they're just, man, they're making it, this traffic is, they're basically making it impossible. Whatever I choose to do, they make it almost impossible to do what I'm trying to do. Nice. That's what it is. The most passive aggressive of passive aggressive. Well, we see you want to do a thing, so that's out of the question. All right. Well, guess I'll do something else then. Oh, you want to go 68 now and it's 60? Well, we're all going to go fucking 68. When I was just going 55 and none of them would pass. It's all the same people. Like, what the fuck is this? Now some guy had to ride on the shoulder because they wouldn't let him They wouldn't let him merge onto the interstate. It's like, wow, you don't hardly ever see that. And he's from Iowa. Huh. Yeah, they basically just intentionally would not let this guy merge onto the interstate. Crazy. You almost never see that. Diabolical, and I don't say that word much now that it's become in vogue. Yeah, for sure. 66 miles. I'm guessing we'll get to play in traffic in Chicago, though, depending on where these pallets are going, where this freight's going. All right, I guess I'm out of here. I need to conserve my energy anyway. Get all this done so I can be done for the day. Bye.